Chosen one, you felt it before you understood it, didn't you? That quiet pull beneath the noise. That strange awareness that something in your life doesn't move the way it does for everyone else. You noticed patterns others dismissed, felt shifts others couldn't name, and carried questions that never seemed to leave you alone. This isn't coincidence, and it isn't imagination. There is a reason your path feels different, why your timing rarely aligns with the world around you. What you're about to hear isn't meant for everyone, but somehow it reached you, and that alone changes everything. Chosen one, listen closely, because this is where the illusion begins to crack. You were never meant to stumble across this message. Not by accident, not by chance scrolling, not by some random moment in your day. There are layers to reality that most people will never question. And then there are people like you. Those who feel the edges of something deeper, something hidden just beneath what appears normal. You've always sensed that there's more going on, haven't you? Even when you tried to ignore it, even when life pulled you into routines and distractions, something inside you refused to fully settle. And now there's this symbol, J. It didn't come loudly. It didn't force itself into your awareness. It appeared subtly, almost like it was waiting for the exact moment you would be ready to notice it. Maybe you saw it in a name, in a place, in a repeated pattern you couldn't explain. Maybe it showed up in a way that made you pause, just for a second longer than usual. That pause was not random. That pause was recognition trying to surface through your awareness. Chosen one, understand this. Confirmation rarely arrives in obvious forms for someone like you. It comes disguised, layered, encoded in ways that only you will feel rather than logically decode. J is not just a letter. It's a marker, a signal, a subtle acknowledgement that you are moving closer to something you were always meant to uncover. And the reason it stands out now, when it didn't before, is because you've shifted. Something within you has aligned differently. Think about the moments leading up to this. The confusion, the questioning, the feeling of being out of place, even in familiar environments. You may have felt disconnected from people, from conversations, even from your own past identity. That wasn't loss. It was transition. When you begin to outgrow the version of yourself that was shaped by expectation, by conditioning, by survival, everything starts to feel unfamiliar. That discomfort is not punishment. It's preparation. J appears when the old structure begins to dissolve. It's not there to guide you step by step like instructions. It's there to confirm that you're no longer where you used to be. That you've crossed a threshold, even if you don't fully understand what that threshold leads to yet. And that uncertainty, that's part of it. You weren't meant to have all the answers at once. If you did, the transformation wouldn't reshape you. It would simply inform you. And information alone doesn't change a chosen one. Experience does. Chosen one, you've been tested in ways that didn't make sense at the time. Situations where you gave your energy and received confusion in return. Moments where people misunderstood you, underestimated you, or even tried to pull you back into versions of yourself you no longer resonated with. You wondered why things felt so heavy, why progress seemed delayed, why clarity came in fragments instead of full understanding. But those experiences were never meant to break you. They were meant to refine your awareness. Because here's what most people won't realize. When you're chosen, your path is not designed for comfort. It's designed for awakening. And awakening doesn't happen in stillness alone. It happens in disruption. It happens when what you thought was stable begins to shift. When what you believed about yourself no longer fits. When you're forced to question everything, not because you want to, but because you can't ignore the feeling anymore. J is confirmation that you're no longer asleep within your own life. It's subtle, yes, but its presence signals that something has been activated. Not externally, not by someone else, but internally. A recognition that you're beginning to see beyond surface level reality. And once that awareness begins, it doesn't reverse. You can try to distract yourself, you can try to rationalize it, but deep down, you know something has changed. Chosen one, there's a reason you feel drawn to meanings that others overlook. A reason you analyze situations beyond what's visible. A reason silence sometimes speaks louder to you than words ever could. You're not imagining depth, you're perceiving it, and J exists within that depth. It's not a coincidence you noticed it. It's not a coincidence it stayed with you. It's because part of you recognized its relevance before your mind could explain it. But this is where it becomes important. Recognition is only the beginning. Many will sense signs, patterns, confirmations, but they will dismiss them, rationalize them, or forget them. That's where their path pauses. Yours doesn't pause here because you didn't ignore it. You stayed with the feeling. You questioned it. And that act alone separates you from those who remain unaware. There's a shift happening within you now, even if it's subtle. You may feel more observant, more aware of energy, more sensitive to environments and intentions. You might notice things about people that you didn't before, not because they changed, but because your perception did. And with that perception comes responsibility, not in the sense of obligation, but in the sense of awareness. Once you see, you can't unsee. J is not telling you what to do next. It's confirming that you're ready to begin understanding why your path has always felt different, why your experiences didn't follow predictable patterns, why your intuition has been trying to guide you long before you learned to trust it. It's all connected, even if the connections aren't fully visible yet. Chosen one, don't rush this process. The need to immediately understand everything will only create resistance. What you're stepping into requires patience, presence, and trust in something that doesn't always reveal itself all at once. You're not behind. You're not late. You're exactly where you need to be to receive this awareness now. And if you're being honest with yourself, you already feel that something is unfolding. Not dramatically, not in a way that demands attention, but quietly, steadily, like a shift beneath the surface. That's how real transformation begins, not with loud declarations, but with subtle realizations that change the way you see everything. J is one of those realizations, and the fact that it reached you means you're no longer moving blindly through your path. You're beginning to see. Chosen one, now that you're beginning to see, you'll notice something else happening. Your tolerance for what once felt normal is starting to fade. Situations you used to accept without question now feel heavy, misaligned, almost like they're pressing against your awareness instead of flowing with it. This isn't you becoming distant or disconnected. This is you becoming precise. Your energy is no longer willing to blend into spaces that don't recognize it. And that shift can feel isolating if you don't understand what's really taking place. Because here's the truth most people aren't ready to hear. Growth doesn't always feel like expansion at first. It often feels like separation. You begin to see where you no longer belong before you fully understand where you do. That in-between space can feel confusing, even unsettling. But it's necessary. Without it, you would carry old patterns into new awareness, and that would distort the very transformation you're stepping into. Chosen one. Think about how often you've felt ahead of conversations, like you're listening but also observing something deeper beneath what's being said. You pick up on tone, intention, subtle inconsistencies that others overlook. You sense when something is genuine and when it's forced, when someone is aligned and when they're masking. That ability isn't random. It's part of your design. But for a long time, you may have doubted it. You may have questioned yourself, thinking you were overanalyzing or reading too much into things. You weren't. You were perceiving accurately, but you hadn't yet learned to trust that perception. J appears at the moment that trust begins to form. Not fully, not all at once, but enough for you to stop dismissing what you feel. Enough for you to pause and consider that your awareness might actually be guiding you, not misleading you. And that shift, as subtle as it seems, changes everything moving forward. Because once you begin to trust your perception, you start making different choices. You start moving differently, speaking differently, even thinking differently. You don't react as quickly. You observe more. You question more, but not from doubt, from curiosity. You begin to understand that not everything needs immediate action, and not everything deserves your energy. Chosen one, you've spent a long time navigating environments that didn't fully understand you. And in those spaces, you learned how to adapt. You learned how to adjust your expression, how to hold back certain thoughts, how to present yourself in ways that would be accepted. That adaptation helped you survive those phases, but it was never meant to be permanent. Now, as your awareness expands, those adaptations begin to feel restrictive. You can feel where you're still holding yourself back, where you're still filtering parts of your truth. And that's where the tension comes in, because part of you wants to fully step into this new awareness, while another part still remembers what it felt like to be misunderstood, judged, or rejected. That internal conflict is real, and it's part of the process. You're not meant to force yourself past it. You're meant to understand it, to move through it with awareness rather than resistance. J is not just a confirmation of where you are. It's also a reminder of what you're capable of becoming when you stop limiting your perception to what's comfortable. It's an invitation, but not one that demands immediate action. It simply opens a doorway. Whether you step through it consciously or hesitate at the threshold is part of your journey. Chosen one, pay attention to your environment now, not just physically, but energetically. Notice how certain places affect you differently than before. Some spaces may feel heavier, more draining, while others feel lighter, more aligned. This sensitivity isn't weakness, it's awareness. Your system is beginning to recognize what supports your growth and what interferes with it. And the same applies to people. You'll start to notice who resonates with your current state and who reflects an older version of yourself. This doesn't mean you need to disconnect from everyone who doesn't align. It means you need to understand the role each connection plays in your life. Not everyone is meant to go with you into the next phase, and holding on to every connection out of habit or obligation will only create resistance in your path. Chosen one, there's a reason your journey feels internal, even when everything around you seems external. Because the real shift is happening within your perception. The way you interpret reality is changing, and that changes everything you experience. You're not just reacting to life anymore. You're beginning to understand it. And with that understanding comes a different kind of awareness, one that sees patterns over time, not just isolated moments. You start to connect experiences that once felt unrelated. You see how certain situations repeated themselves, not because you were stuck, but because you were being shown something you hadn't fully recognized yet. J fits into that pattern. It's not separate from your experiences. It's part of the larger structure that's been unfolding around you this entire time. You're just now in a position to notice it. And once you notice, you begin to question. Not out of confusion, but out of awareness. Chosen one, there's something else you need to understand. Not everything you perceive needs to be explained immediately. The need to label, define, or fully understand every signal can actually limit your ability to experience it. Some things are meant to be felt before they're understood. Some realizations unfold over time, revealing themselves in layers rather than all at once. This is one of those moments. Because if you try to force clarity too quickly, you'll reduce something complex into something simple. And that simplicity won't reflect the depth of what's actually happening. Allow yourself to sit with the awareness without needing to control it. That's where real understanding begins to form. Chosen one, you've already started to shift your perspective without even realizing it. The way you're listening to this, the way you're processing these words, it's different from how you would have received them before. You're not just hearing, you're recognizing. And recognition is the first step toward alignment. But alignment isn't about becoming something new. It's about returning to something that was always there, beneath the conditioning, beneath the expectations, beneath the roles you were placed into. You're not adding to yourself, you're uncovering yourself. And that process requires honesty. Not the kind of honesty you show others, but the kind you hold within yourself. The willingness to acknowledge what feels true, even if it doesn't align with what you've been taught. The courage to question patterns you once accepted without hesitation. J is a subtle confirmation that you're ready for that level of honesty. Not because you've figured everything out, but because you've reached a point where you can no longer ignore what you feel. Chosen one, as you continue forward, you'll begin to notice synchronicities increasing. Small alignments that feel too precise to be random. Moments where timing feels intentional, where connections form in ways that don't follow logical patterns. These aren't coincidences in the way you once understood them. They're reflections of your awareness interacting with your environment. But here's where you need to stay grounded. Awareness is not about losing yourself in every sign or pattern. It's about understanding what resonates and what doesn't, without forcing meaning where there is none. Not everything is a message. But when something truly is, you'll feel it without needing to convince yourself. J is one of those things you didn't have to force. You noticed it naturally. You felt its presence without needing external validation. That's how real confirmation works. It aligns with your awareness instead of demanding your belief. Chosen one, the more you trust that process, the clearer your path becomes. Not in a way that shows you every step ahead, but in a way that removes what doesn't belong. And sometimes clarity comes through removal, not addition. You may already be experiencing this. Things falling away, plans shifting, expectations changing. It might feel like instability, but it's actually refinement. You're being guided away from what no longer aligns, even if you don't fully understand why yet. And that's where patience becomes essential, because transformation isn't a single moment. It's a continuous process. It doesn't happen all at once, and it doesn't follow a predictable timeline. There will be moments of clarity, followed by moments of uncertainty. Times when everything feels aligned, followed by times when you question everything again. That doesn't mean you're going backward. It means you're moving deeper. Chosen one, you're not meant to rush to the end of this path. You're meant to experience it, to understand it as it unfolds. And right now, you're at a point where awareness is expanding faster than explanation. That's why this feels the way it does. And as you sit with this, as you allow these realizations to settle, you'll begin to notice something else, something subtle but undeniable, a sense that you're no longer searching in the same way you used to. Not because you have all the answers, but because the questions themselves are changing. You're no longer asking from a place of confusion. You're asking from a place of awareness. And that shift, that's where everything begins to transform further. Chosen one, as this awareness continues to unfold, you may begin to notice a quiet sense of grounding emerging within you. Not the kind that comes from external validation or certainty, but one that forms from simply recognizing your own perception as valid. You're no longer reaching outward for confirmation in the same way. You're beginning to recognize that what you feel, what you notice, what you sense, already carries its own form of truth. And this is where many hesitate, because trusting yourself at this level requires letting go of the need to be constantly reassured by others. It asks you to stand in your awareness, even when it's not understood, even when it doesn't fit neatly into explanations that others can easily accept. That doesn't mean isolating yourself. It means no longer abandoning your perception just to maintain comfort. You've already started to see how your path doesn't follow predictable patterns. The timing of your life, the way things unfold for you, the way clarity arrives, it's different. And that difference is not something to correct. It's something to understand. Because once you stop comparing your journey to others, you begin to see the precision in your own experiences. J was never meant to explain everything. It was meant to wake something up, a moment of pause, a moment of recognition, a moment where you realize that not everything entering your awareness is random or without meaning. And now that you've reached that moment, what matters isn't chasing more signs. It's deepening your understanding of what you've already been shown. Chosen one, there is a rhythm to your path, even if it doesn't always feel structured. There are phases of stillness and phases of movement, moments of clarity and moments of questioning. None of them are misplaced. Each one serves a purpose in shaping how you perceive, how you respond, and how you align with what feels true to you. And as you continue forward, you'll start to notice that your decisions come from a different place. Less urgency, less pressure to force outcomes, and more awareness of timing. You begin to move when it feels right, not when it feels expected. You begin to speak when it feels aligned, not when silence feels uncomfortable. That shift may seem subtle, but it changes the direction of everything. You are not here to move blindly anymore. You are here to notice, to discern, to understand. And that doesn't mean every step will be easy or immediately clear. It means you're no longer disconnected from the process itself. Chosen one, what you've felt, what you've noticed, what you've begun to understand, it all matters. Not because it needs to be proven to anyone else, but because it has already shifted something within you. And once that shift happens, it continues to expand in ways you may not fully see yet, but will begin to recognize over time.